The team is, the number one most important thing for any company, and especially a startup. We think about it in the same way that I think a lot of bigger companies think about it, which is that at the beginning we really just want smart people, really great minds, people who can solve problems, and then we figure we can train them to learn a little bit more about what we do specifically, but you have to start with a really strong foundation for great people. And so we recruit using our own networks and our own friends and contacts, and then at the end of the day, if we do need a specific function or role filled, then we will go look for people in that particular field. But it's all about finding people that fit with the chemistry of the company. To find somebody that you think is a good fit for the company and also really smart, you can kind of just tell through a series of questions in the interviews, and I'm sure in different functional areas of our company we ask, and I know we ask, particular questions that are domain specific if we're hiring engineers or if we're hiring, operations or sales folks, but you can get a pretty quick sense by the way that someone describes who they are, where they're from, what they're all about, how articulate they are, and really just, I think the presentation and how well spoken they are. I mean, I think about it a lot compared to sales, and you're really selling yourself when you're interviewing. And so for us, we want people to be good representatives of our company when they work here. And so at Stella, we really want people who present themselves well in an interview and articulate and can communicate really well. So it's a good question. We actually tried to focus at the beginning on culture because one of the companies that we work with a lot is a company called Zappos, which a lot of people know about from their great service and their great culture internally. And it's really hard at the beginning to set the stake about culture and values and the kind of environment you want to create when you're just worried about trying to make sure that the lights are on the next day and that you're growing the company and surviving. And so we actually didn't do as good of a job, I think, as we could have in laying the groundwork for specific names of, or just words that describe our company and the way that we wanted to project ourselves. But I think the culture developed automatically. It always does. And if you hire good people and if you foster that kind of culture just by the actions that you take and the people you hire and the actions they take, the culture just evolves and develops. And so we were conscious of it, and that we actually have hired a couple people that didn't, after a few weeks or a few months, we realized weren't actually strong culture fit. And you need to cut ties with those people, and you need to make hard decisions sometimes in order to protect what you think is really the DNA of the company. Yeah, we figured that companies that treat their own people really well are typically the same companies that treat their customers really well, and that's also a very salient story for Danny Meyer and his restaurant group of companies, which are some of the notoriously best restaurants in the world for service. And it all starts with the employees and the family atmosphere and culture that they build among each other. And so we've learned a lot, and that's in the hospitality industry, and of course in retail and e-commerce, as we've learned the culture that you build internally and the way that you treat your employees and the way that you encourage employees to work with one another really impacts the way that you build and grow your own success. And so we focused on that a lot, again, just sort of ad hoc and not in a very formal way, but I think it comes across when we work with either investors or partners or clients. They just get a really strong sense that we're there for them in the same way that we're there for each other here. When you think about if you want to grow or you want to succeed, you have to have the people to do it. And so there could be a laundry list of things that you have to get done for the business. But if the team isn't at the very top of your priority list, then all those other things don't matter at the end of the day, because you won't have the team to execute on it, or you won't have the staff to really make good on what your promises are. So as a matter of priority, we've always put that first, at least to get the wheels moving, whether it's in hiring or whether it's in, when you're small and you don't have a lot of resources, it's hard to develop a strong training program or anything really formal. But really just being open in communication, you have to be very open with everyone about how they're doing, how they feel about things in the company. And it's difficult to do in a smaller organization, like you said, because there's a lot going on. but at the end of the day, you have to recognize that you're all here to work on a project together, and you're sort of, you don't want to disappoint your colleagues, and at the end of the day, and you want to, if there's a strong rapport among the people in the company, then you're gonna work hard together. You have to work really hard to position your company as a great opportunity, or your organization as a great opportunity for people. And there's a lot of, if you're in a technology company, how do you compete, for engineers with Google? And if you're in advertising, how do you compete with, some of the biggest names in design and Saatchi and whatever? And so the only way to do it is to have a unique sell for what makes your company or your organization special, and what is at heart, your guys' mission. And for us, we have a very unique proposition to the market, and what we do is very different from really what anybody else does. And so we try to tell our story in a way that resonates with people. And again, it's just sales. It's you have to communicate really articulately what you're doing, and why it's a great opportunity for those people to be a part of it. I think people want to work for companies that are just in general doing a good thing. To me, whether it's a for-profit or a not-for-profit, sometimes doesn't really matter, as long as the company is actually doing something that is a positive, forward-moving mission. So for us at StellaService, we're actually working on something that could be considered kind of a public good, in that we're out there measuring service so that consumers will have more information and better insight, so they know which companies to buy from and which ones not to buy from. But we're not a not-for-profit, but we're doing something that people can feel good about as a positive contributor. And at the end of the day, if you have to make trade-offs on working for a company or an organization that is truly going out of its way to do good, and not concerned with making a profit or being financially very big or successful, then that thing, there's just the trade-offs. That thing has to be very meaningful and impactful for the individual. There wasn't any sort of formal philosophy or framework that we used, or I really put to work. It was literally at the beginning, when you're starting an organization or a company from scratch, the only people that are really going to work with you or trust you or believe in you at the beginning are people that already know you, friends or family. And so that's how we started, and we started by hiring our friends. And ultimately from that, the circle kind of expands, and then friends of friends, and then you finally can convince outsiders. But by that time, you've hopefully built a network and an inner circle that is very consistent in their beliefs and values as you. And so it sort of sets the core fundamentals for what the future of the company will look like, because it had all expanded from the circle that was the founding team. Growing while keeping your team intact and your culture intact is something that's very challenging. There's a lot of companies, of course, that have grown really, really fast, and in doing so have damaged the culture and the team dynamic. And for us, it's just something that you have to keep really focused on the interviewing parameters, who you're looking for, what you're looking for. Be picky, don't settle. There's a temptation to just go forward with someone that you want to fill the position, and you think this person will do an okay job, but you're not in love with that person, and you don't think that the person's going to do an incredible job, and or is not a right culture fit. So I think the most important thing is to stay focused on that, and you may have to take a short-term hit on growth or speed to get something done, but having somebody in the organization that is not the right fit could cost you way more in the long term. I think you know sort of from your gut, after you spend some time working with someone, what the outcome is going to be, as far as are they going to be a good fit, are they going to be a positive contributor, and you definitely need data points. You need to work with them on a number of things, and you need other people to work with them. But there's no one thing that it's sort of cutting a corner and trying to find a shortcut that doesn't really exist. You really have to get to the heart of it, and actually, when things are not going great, and in small companies or startups, there's always things that are sort of difficult or big challenges. You find out pretty quickly when times are tough who's really going to step in and take ownership and accountability, and those are the people that you want. Those are people who are going to be there for the